Hi, welcome to Anaprime Recap. You are a high school boy who merges with the Demon King to unleash his power. We are in the anime, The Immortal King. Episodes 10, 11 and 12. Jian Lu Yin, the leader of the criminal group, managed to trap Wang Ling in the bully boy using a sacred rope capable of making it impossible for the user to break free using his spiritual power. The criminal realizes that one of the boys there was a friend of Su Rong's and could use him to her advantage. Although she thinks he is just a weak boy, the seal that holds his negative energy is about to break, and if this comes to pass, the earth will be destroyed in the blink of an eye. The spirit that dwells in Ling's spirit sword awakens and observes the whole situation. Noticing the weather becoming more sober with lightning and very strong winds, the creature immediately tries to calm its master by saying that the noodles of the day are half price. Then, the boy's devastating power calms down and the mood returns to normal thanks to the invocation present in Wang Ling's weapon. Jian Lu Yin takes a lock of the bully boy's hair and says she will use it to infiltrate the school. Since the initial plan was to turn herself into a bookshelf and kill Su Rong, she leaves one of her henchmen watching the students and leaves ready to put her plan into action. Meanwhile, the instructors and students from both schools are in class attending a small meeting when Bufeng desperately opens the door and tells everyone that Ling has been kidnapped. At this point we see the boys tied to a pole and the protagonist is tied to a wooden structure that looks very much like a cross. The tough guy tells the criminal that he has been thinking about joining Yin Lu for a long time, and if he were to be untied from that place, he would tell everything he knew to the evil group. The henchman replies that only the boss was capable of removing that spell. The boy, already impatient, says that that old man was only good enough to be a driver and had no power to participate in that faction. At that moment, that same old man, at first harmless, shoots a powerful lightning bolt close to the young man's feet that crosses all the floors of the school, reaching the ground in a few seconds. The spirit of the sword tells him that the driver has uncommon power, but even so, it is nowhere near his maximum strength. In the meeting room, the gang leader, who was looking like Bufeng, tells the whole story of how Ling was captured by his enemies. The hero who was there confirms that it was all part of Yin Lu's plan. The college president asks his assistant to locate Wang Ling's power. The girl searches for an unknown power since Ling had a very low level. A presence is detected in the old building. Zhou Yi says he will send the 7-star special team to the site to investigate. At the same moment, Su Rong is tied up by her own security guards. In order to protect her from kidnapping or anything else, since she is the criminal organization's main target, the girl breaks free and, wielding her sword, says that she will not run away and will face any enemy to save her friend. Chen and Kuo Hao stand up and also draw their swords in order to help their friend. Then they go together with the security guards to rescue Wang Ling. Instructor Xie orders the president and his group to go with the other students to observe their opponent's abilities and, if necessary, help them with whatever is needed. At this moment we see the driver dancing on the roof of the building. The bully boy tries to call the protagonist but realizes that he was sleeping. After all, in this situation he was calm because he couldn't participate in the tournament. The old criminal senses the presence of people approaching, and Bufeng, in a desperate situation, starts screaming for help but is immediately knocked out with a kick so hard that he falls to the floor below. Su Rong approaches the old building with friends and security guards, and in the background we see that the bully's classmates notice him acting strangely, at which point they start watching him from afar. The driver unleashes a powerful beam at all the approaching bodyguards, Baya Goji power, wreaking havoc on everyone who was flying, thus generating several explosions in the sky. Still at the beginning of the battle, we see that Wang Ling's father is still at the school gate, being prevented from entering by the security guard. Back in battle, the old driver conjures a powerful spell that covers a large part of the sky. Using his treasure storage disk technique, he summons an army of golden knights who march to attack his enemies. Su Rong stands in front of the attack and blocks it entirely by herself with her sword. Then, undoing the enemy's invocation, the girl approaches him with several blades in the air, ready to strike back. Then we are shown a short flashback where we learn that the head of the criminal organization, Yin Lu, is the apprentice of the old driver, always calling him master, because it was by his side that the girl developed her spiritual abilities, becoming very powerful. Returning to the great battle, Su Rong is fighting against other spiritual swords created by the enemy, called dragon soldiers, where the user controlled them from a long distance. In the same instant, the Lord creates a gravitational field around the girl, making it impossible for her to make any movement. A golden soldier approaches the girl to strike her but is quickly defeated by Zhou Yi, who arrives on the battlefield with the intention of defeating the old man. The two advance towards each other and a shockwave due to the collision occurs, but the hero manages to come out undefeated from the first attack. The driver, however, is very weak. After all, his body was no longer so young. Not missing the opportunity, a helicopter that was with the elite team fires a shot in the direction of the gentleman. hitting him full-on with a shot that crosses his body. He already without strength falls from an immense height straight to the top of the abandoned building. The old driver sacrificed himself to protect his boss, who was once his beloved disciple. Su Rong is taken to a safe place by her main guard. She was unconscious since she had used too much of her power, so she fainted. He Bufeng runs to the girl to check if everything is okay, and the security guard, noticing a strange movement on the boy's part, says that everything is okay over there. That was not the bully boy, but the matriarch of the criminal group that in all this time was impersonating the boy. She then carries in her hand a ball of negative energy to attack the girl's defender, but is quickly stopped and then asks him to fight somewhere else. Back in the last moments of the battle, Zhou Yi and the green dog approach the old man who has no strength left to stand up and tell him that he will be arrested for several crimes. The driver tries to say his last words but can't, choosing to use the rest of his energy to destroy himself. The trotting frog, observing that situation, manages to feed off that last burst of power. Wang Ling is finally rescued by the elite team, but he hides the real He Bufeng in the back of an old classroom, asking his spirit creature, Jing Ke, to protect him and not let him escape from that place. That way the tournament would be cancelled and he wouldn't have to participate. The next day, Wang Ling realizes that his plan has failed as the bully boy was at the opening ceremony of the competition, when in fact it was still Zhang Luyin who was in disguise in order to eliminate Su Rong. The protagonist does not understand the situation, but keeps an eye on the supposed student. The opening begins and everyone is forced to have their cell phones confiscated, receiving instead a communication device to talk to each other during the tournament. The competition representative explains that with their spirit swords they can score points at each altar. The student must stay at least 10 seconds at the given location to start scoring. He explains that there is a flight limit of 5 meters for area maneuvers and that every location will be surrounded by a protective barrier, so there is no need to worry. Just then, the students begin to be transported to the arena by a huge crystal, and just as Wang Ling is about to be sent there, he sees his father running and shouting in his direction, but is then sent off together with his companions. Zhou Yi approaches the man and says that it is an honor to meet his master's father, but he ends up knowing the whole situation and that if the boy's seal is not changed, a huge world catastrophe could happen. The students arrive at the huge arena. The president of the rival school asks his assistant to locate the other students. She reveals that Chen Zhao has fallen at the metal altar in the west, Su Rong is at the water altar in the north, and the green dog approaches the fire altar in the south along with He Bufeng. The group from the 59th High is in the center, very close to the top of the earth, so they soon deduce that Wang Ling is at the wood altar in the east. One of the participants, upon hearing this, runs towards the weak boy, since it would be easier to defeat him. Even after detecting most of them, Kuo Hao's location was still missing, but what they didn't know is that he had been listening to all that explanation from the beginning. The boy was hiding behind a pillar of earth. However, his presence is noticed. In that instant his body is pierced by Tang Jing's sword. Finally, the thing was nothing more than an earth clone. The boy then runs out of that place and hides high up in a tree. He was saved by one of the replacement seals he had bought before the tournament started. A voice message is released and everyone learns that the 59th High has already conquered the altar of earth. Tang Jing intends to confront Su Rong by going to the north, and his assistant goes to Chen, who is in the west. The girl in charge of defeating him also arrives at the scene and in a few seconds makes use of her magic, the web realm, where through a kind of invisible spider's web, the user controls his enemy's movements, making him cause his own wounds. Wang Ling's father along with the hero Zhou Yi and the other coordinators watch through several cameras scattered around the arena the battles of their students. The old instructor of the 60th High analyzes Chen Zhao's situation and deduces that the boy has already lost the fight against his opponent. On another monitor, we observe the beginning of the fight between He Bufeng and the toad dog for the fire altar. The brave boy owes himself from the animal's attacks, then prepares an electric attack with his negative energy, but when trying to hit the animal he realizes that it has swallowed his energy. The trotting toad then hides due to the great amount of power it has absorbed, and the boy continues towards the goal. In the wood area, Wang Ling awakens with the dog talking on the phone about his plan to break the barrier using spiritual energy stolen from the other participants. When he gets up he runs into Liang Fei, who prepares to attack him but is interrupted by Kuo Hao, who uses his high-energy attack. The two then begin to fight at high speed using their swords. To the north, Su Rong rushes to capture the water altar, but is surprised by an attack from Tang Jing. The girl manages to dodge and immediately invokes her sword spirit. The opposing boy appears with his invocation at his side. The prodigy girl, already angry, fires her attack at her enemy, turning her weapon into a giant water monster. The school president then orders his creature to attack as well, launching a powerful cut with his katana at the sea serpent, thus destroying it. After the giant collision, Another voice message is released and we learn that He Bufeng has conquered the fire altar and the girl who was fighting Chen Zhao has also taken aim at the metal altar. Thus the 59th high leads in the competition with 4 points. Su Rong gets into fighting stance, picks up her sword and uses her Ao Lai dance technique where she attacks with several other water blades, but the boy activates his special ability, Snowblow, turning the entire water environment into ice. The girl advances towards her opponent, exchanging several attacks with Tang Jing's spirit creature. The girl recognizes that in that duel she was still at a disadvantage in the matter of strength, and to make matters worse she is surprised by an attack from He Bufeng who strikes her on the arm with a negative energy sphere. At that moment, being cornered and with nowhere to run, everyone on the field is surprised by a devastating gale that breaks through most of the ice field. Tang Jin tells He Bufeng that she doesn't know who he really is, but if he helps her in the championship, she will reward him with whatever he wants. The president then asks the bully boy to go after the girl, while he takes the altar. The 59th high then is counting down to take the last altar, and when they were going to get a speed bonus, the wood arena is dominated by the 60th high. Su Rong hears on her communicator Ko Hao saying that Wang Ling has merged with the green dog, thus taking the base. During the fight for the Madeira altar, the protagonist was sitting on the ground, watching his friends battle against Liang Fei, when he noticed the presence of the trotting frog in the bushes around the place. Ling could no longer bear to contain all that strength, and a feeling begins to appear. At that moment his barrier was broken, releasing a dense amount of negative energy. The spirit dog took advantage of the situation and ran towards the boy, biting him on the neck to devour all that power. But this was Ling's trap, so that the dog would be attracted by the energy and thus be able to perform the fusion technique. With their bodies connected, Wang Ling could use a little more of his strength, since the trotting frog would serve as a sort of limiter. Liang Fei makes fun of the whole situation and tries to attack the boy, but as he puts his sword against the Ling finger, his weapon is destroyed in several pieces. Then, with only one hand on his shoulder, he is thrown far away as if he had been hit by a truck at high speed. After the fusion, Ling uses the green dog as a sort of hood that covers his entire head. The boy then sets off towards the fire-only altar and immediately catches it at incredible speed, then heads towards the metal altar. The students of the 59 don't understand that situation and discover that the power of the weak boy at that moment is amazing. Tang orders He Bufeng to go protect the earth altar that is in the center of the arena and asks Lien Zheng to retrieve the fire altar as soon as possible. The chairman then reasons that even though Wang Ling is very strong now, their group has the disadvantage of having one less participant since the dog is part boy. He also creates an altar relay strategy where the score would always be 4-1 since that merger was the only chance for the 60th high to score. Tang Jin tells Xiao Bei to go to the wooden altar to meet with him and at the same time report at all times the location of Ling's superfusion. The incredible fusion reaches the metal altar and wakes Chen, who was unconscious since his fight. The boy explains everything that happened to his friend and so they score with one more altar for the team, staying in the lead for the first time. However, it is announced that Wang Ling's group only has one altar and the others have been conquered by the opposing team again. Ling then understands the strategy his opponents are using and his only solution is to run as fast as possible to conquer all the altars, but even then he would need to wait 10 seconds with his sword on each one. The boy then releases a large amount of energy to carry out his plan but is surprised by Su Rong talking on his phone. The group then discusses a way to capture the points so that they will have the advantage and immediately realize that the key to this was Chen Zhao. Already putting their plan into practice, Ko Hao and the prodigy girl head to the fire altar that was being protected by Lien Zheng. Upon arriving at the scene, the boy distracts his opponent with various offenses and taunts as Su Rong approached to retrieve the altar. At the same instant a voice message is issued to the students saying that the water altar has been captured by the 60th high. At that moment we saw He Bufeng at the earth altar remembering the words of Tang Jin, who promised that if he won the tournament, he would help him in any way necessary. The championship is getting closer and closer to its end. What are the plans of the matriarch who is infiltrating the competition? Why all this obsession with Su Rong? Will the 60th high finally conquer all the altars? So, what did you think of this anime? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like it and subscribe for more anime recaps. See you next time.